Welcome to Chapel Hill. Duke picks up the shot, and a foul first. Jim Nance and Billy Packer on hand here at the Dean Dome for this great rivalry game. And we've got our first break in the action with Carolina at one time with a 12-0 run, leading 14-8 in the early going.
AT&T and Singular Wireless are proud to present this great NCAA championship moment.
They have no timeouts remaining.
He causes too many timeouts. That's a technical foul. A huge mental mistake.
North Carolina is the 1993 national champion.
Get more historic NCAA tournament highlights and exclusive video of the 2007 Men's and Women's NCAA Basketball Championship on your mobile phone. Available only on your AT&T or Singular Wireless phones. Singular is now the new AT&T.
Well, some of you just joined us. Let's show you what happened in the early going. That was a Miller assist to Brandon Wright. Lawson came in and hit the senior Rayshon Terry for a basket. Duke was down 10. They brought in Henderson. He scored 3 straight trips down the floor. And here's the big headline on this one, Billy.
Well,
if North
Jim,
Carolina wins,
they can go to number 1. If they lose, they can drop all the way down to number 5. And what that does is means that they would have to play 4 games in the ACC tournament as opposed to being the number 1 seed, only having to play 3, obviously, against lower seeded teams. So much on the line here.
in fact, not only could they would. There's nothing in between. A Carolina win would give them the 1 seed. They would share the regular season title with Virginia, but they beat them in the one matchup this year, which was played here at Carolina's court. But they would be a 1 if they won, and if they lose, it's a 5. There's nothing in between.
It's kind of amazing. You know, Jim, what is amazing, the Big East and the ACC, 2 of the prominent conferences in the country, go into with 1 game remaining in the schedules of all the teams. Neither the Big East nor the ACC had 1 single seed set for their postseason tournament. Wow, talks about balance. It's unbelievable.
Henderson's had the hot hand, and he continues. He's got 8.
That one over Stevenson.
Stevenson coming in for the first time for Carolina, number 32. Zubak is in for Duke, along with Pochus. That's Wright. Right to the basket. Beautiful one-step move, 16-10 North Carolina.
And Zubak having all kinds of trouble handling that type of quickness.
Pochus. And it's blocked by Stevenson. Here comes Carolina. Got a 4-on-2. Ellington got the fake. Scoops it up. Stevenson follows, and Zubak pulls it away.
Stevenson, who played an extremely outstanding game against Arizona, is capable. Another pickoff. One thing Duke cannot afford to do in this game is turn it over.
Basket by Brandon Wright. Say, Billy, I've been here many times, but I think this might be as loud as I've ever heard it at the Dean Dome, particularly that electric start when they went up 12-2.
Well, in 1986, when this arena opened, these 2 teams went head-to-head, both undefeated, ranked 1-3 in the country. North Carolina winning that one, but there have been a lot of memorable moments between these 2 teams. 19 of the last 26 years, one of the 2 of them have been in the Final Four, so you're looking at some real quality in terms of what's on this court now and what's been on the court in the history. Nice overplay by Hansbrough on McRoberts, who thought he might have a backdoor cut.
Duke resets under 10 on the shot clock. Wallace with the 3. He's been on the mark from behind the arc the last 4 games. Super hot hand. That one spinning out, and the last touch by North Carolina. Duke has not made a 3 to this point. Missed its first 4 attempts. Bob it high and plucked out of the air by McRoberts.
Taking a chance, trying to throw it over Wright.
Henderson with a 3. He finally misses. Thomas with the put back, and it gets it to go. Lance Thomas, freshman from Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Quickly to the other end, it's Lawson.
This team is at its best when Lawson puts the ball on the floor and takes it to the hoop.
You're talking about some of those memories, some of those moments in the matchups. 1984, Jordan's last home game at Chapel Hill. Perkins and Jordan lead the Tar Heels to a double overtime victory. Matt Doherty hits the shot that right there for the victory. CBS Sports college basketball coverage is sponsored by Enterprise Rent-A-Car. We'll pick you up. DiGiorno. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno. And by Lexus and their pursuit of perfection. Jim Nance and Billy Packer with you here in Chapel Hill. Billy, you mentioned it, 19 of the last 26 years, at least one of these two teams made it to the Final Four. Of course, back in 91, they both made it. And there you see the tail of the tape. Final Fours and championships. Well,
these two teams have been outstanding. A little postscript, Jim, to that 1984. Michael Jordan, you talk about Doherty hitting that shot. When that game was over, Mike Krzyzewski took his team in the locker room and said, we'll beat them the next time we play them. They did. They beat him in the ACC tournament. And remember, 84 was the famous year when Michael Jordan got beat by Indiana and never got to the Final Four. And what I think was Dean Smith's greatest team, that they never made it to the Final Four.
Lost in the Sweet 16.
Yes, to Indiana.
Henderson. Fade away. Just a bit too strong. Hansbrough.
You know, he didn't fight for his feet that time to square up his feet. He had the fadeaway shot instead of a good two-step jumper.
Scrappy play by Paulus, almost the theft. Ginyard is in. Shot doesn't drop for Thompson. Paulus waits. Finds Henderson. Up strong with it. Right over Thompson.
Henderson, a tremendous leaper, very strong, not afraid to go inside, and Thompson's a big body there to shoot over.
Sean Terry, nothing but net from three.
Terry has had problems this year offensively. Last year, he made the biggest change from what he had scored the year before. Almost 13 points difference. But he's dropped back a little bit this year. That's the kind of jump shot he can make.
That foul called against Hansbrough, his first. Carolina bringing in Danny Green, and Brandon Wright returns. Bobby Fraser for the first time, number 4.
Big difference in the substitution pattern. Duke has 4 players that play over 32 minutes. North Carolina doesn't have a single player that plays over 30 minutes a game.
Yeah, they got 10 players who play at least 10 minutes.
And in the first game, without question, that rotation certainly helped North Carolina.
Warm down in the end.
Right. There are teams that they play in this league, however, that at Georgia Tech being one that they played Thursday night, you're not going to wear down because they're just as deep in talent.
Hansbrough with another rebound. Fraser takes middle, goes wing. Ginyard lays it up and in.
Ginyard, not that big a scorer, but athletically goes over Shire. What he is, however, is a defensive stopper.
11-point lead, largest of the game for Carolina, and Paulus hits the 3. The first of the game for the Blue Devils.
He is now 13 of his last 21 threes, Jim. He went the first 9 games of the year not doing much at all for Duke, but in the last 9 games he has been on a tear, averaging just about 16 points a game.
Hansbrough with the body, stays with it. Yeah, Paulus has become quite an offensive threat here the second half of the season.
This year he's shooting 46% from 3. Last year he shot 30%, was really weak, because that was a great shot to put it over right.
DeMarcus Nelson.
And remember, 16 points off the bench by Nelson in 05, won that game for Duke. Great contribution, and boy, there was Nelson. He hits Hansbrough with a forearm shiver right in the jaw and gets called.
The foul called on Paulus, already in the tournament. Penn won the Ivy League. It's officially the first team in. Winthrop, Belmont, Davidson beat College of Charleston, and that's Southern Conference final. Bobby Crimmins got his team within a game. Eastern Kentucky's in.
Well, Jim, everybody looking for who's this year's George Mason. Winthrop and Davidson are 2 pretty good choices to be thinking about. They both have played outstanding schedules outside their conference against power-type teams, and although the wins weren't there, they were highly competitive.
That's a second foul called against Hansbrough. You think we'll have another George Mason type year coming up?
It's hard to believe that we won't, Jim. And you know, I don't ever think it's going to be from the same league. I don't think it's ever going to be the same team or name. But you've got to believe that that's the strong possibility when you see the balance in the country.
Even look at the balance in the conferences that are considered the power conferences, like right here. And you think about some teams are going to be left out. The ACC, will Clemson get in with its big win today? Or what about Florida State? Or how deep will they go?
And how will they be playing at that point in time? Look at Maryland just a few weeks ago. They were in the 40s in the RPI. Now they're in the top 10.
Great hustle by McRoberts. Carolina shut it down as Duke was quickly moving it around the perimeter. There's Paulus freeing himself. Slides off the back of the rim and a second straight offensive rebound. Back to Paulus.
He'll hit that one.
Yep, that's his second three here in the last minute.
Terrific rebounding by Duke. They're number 3 in the conference, but North Carolina is almost double in terms of how they out-rebound their opponents than Duke. 5-1 to 9. North Carolina leading the ACC in rebounding.
Carolina leading the ACC in scoring, rebounding, assists. I mean, virtually every category except scoring defense, which belongs to Duke. Inside, they feed Thompson, and he lost the handle going up. Down 11 just moments ago. Duke within 5. It can get closer right here. McClure steps in, misses the short shot with pressure.
That's good recognition by McClure, figuring he could beat Thompson on that dribble.
Razor tried to bounce it in, a little too low for Ginyard. We've got a break in the action. 27-22, North Carolina, first half.
Jim, this is kind of an amazing game statistically. North Carolina is shooting 67%. Why is the game close? Here we go right here. Duke out-rebounding North Carolina, and particularly on the offensive boards with 9 second-chance points, making up for the terrific shooting that North Carolina has had.
And Gerald Henderson, you got to think, is on his way to breaking his career high for the second straight game. He had 15 in a loss this week against Maryland. He's already got 10 in the first 12 minutes of this game.
And, of course, he might like North Carolina because he had 14 points in the first game against the Tar Heels.
Yeah. Yeah, that was that total against Maryland with 15 that broke the mark he had set against Carolina the first game.
Terry on him now. A pretty good athletic matchup.
He's really something they've been looking for here at Duke, too, as another serious offensive option as they approach tournament time. McRoberts working on the freshman now. Kicks it corner. Henderson jumper.
Another offensive rebound.
Shire has been pretty much shut down here so far. Bouncing it in. Good hands by Thomas, but Terry says no way. Up ahead, Rayshon with the jumper to 2. Saved right into the arms of Thompson.
There are those hands I was talking about, Jim. The young man who has done a tremendous job losing a lot of weight is going to be an outstanding player. You can't teach great hands. He's got them already. Sounds like such a fundamental, a simple fundamental. Having good hands to be able to catch the ball. If you can't catch it, there's not much you can do with it.
Foul on Ginyard.
Pass to Thompson doesn't have to be perfect because he'll reach out and grab it.
Wallace comes back onto the floor. Danny Green returns for North Carolina.
Well, there's not much drop-off, no matter whether they go 10 deep or more.
Traveling. Well, Shire in their first matchup, Billy, got loose for 26. He has not taken but 1 shot in this game. Actually, 2 attempts. He's 0 for 2 from the field.
Jim, in that game, he shot 10 threes. He was 4 for 10 from 3. So he obviously was getting some good looks.
Ellington somehow got it to go and draws the foul on Paulus.
I don't think I've seen a player as a freshman improve on his weaknesses as quickly as Ellington has. He was primarily a standstill shooter, had 19 points in that big win against Ohio State on his 19th birthday. But at that point in his freshman year, he was primarily a standstill shooter. Now he puts the ball on the floor. He utilized the pump fake extremely well, and he's become a much better defender.
And it's the first foul called against Paulus. Ellington gets the lead back up to 10. Well, they had it up to 11. Duke responded with an 8-2 run. And Carolina works it back up to double digits. Wallace gets the feet set quickly and short with the shot. Lawson. And a bump that's going to be on Paulus' second.
But you can see what Mike Krzyzewski has taught his players. Do not allow Lawson to get moving on that dribble by half court. You got to stop him as quickly as possible. Easier said than done. Even though Paulus, a former football player, has got some strength, Lawson is extremely powerful and probably as quick with the ball as anybody in the country.
Carolina with 8 different players in the scoring column. As they spread it around, spread the wealth. Shot short by Lawson, and McRoberts powers it and clears it.
And one of the things North Carolina's gotten away from, and this is because of their youth in the backcourt. Remember how Wright was getting the ball early in the ball game? He hasn't touched it of late. He's too good a talent not to getting the ball.
Shire able to get it back out high. Back to Shire, corner, 3. And a foul called. And it's going against Duke.
What Roy Williams is upset with the officials is that Wright was pulled to the floor by Shire.
Called on Nelson.
Floor very slippery over near the North Carolina bench.
Two on Nelson, 2 on Paulus, 2 on Hansbrough on the other side.
Jim, this year Duke has had 9 disqualifications, but in a game like this, they can't afford to have any of those players in foul trouble. North Carolina, blessed with this deep talent, really it can almost stay out of foul trouble. I think it'd be a good time to get the ball to Wright down and low. He's being guarded by McClure, who's a good defender, but giving up an awful lot of size.
And a travel. Took a step. Corey put it on the floor. Called on Ellington. And a timeout called by Duke. Blue Devils 10 down. With 5:41 to go in the first half. Billy, you look at North Carolina's ranking, and this is, as of right now, this week, the worst ranking of the season.
Yeah, if you're 8th, you have to say, gee, we're really down to 8th. But this North Carolina team, Jim, I think is still fighting for the chance to be a #1 seed, depending on what they do here today. And I don't mean just in their conference tournament. And then obviously what happens in the postseason tournaments around the country.
Off the hands of Nelson. How about Duke as far as the tournaments? You think North Carolina's still in the running for a 1? I'd have to agree that they've got a real good shot at that. It's particularly as turbulent as it is at the top right now. UCLA losing and some other results this week. What about Duke? Best case scenario.
What would you say, a 4 or 5?
You know, they're so high on the RPI. 9th in the RPI. You know, they got hot. Maybe higher.
Now that ball went into the man that I thought ought to get it. Wright didn't have good position. You could tell during that timeout, Roy Williams maybe seeing the same thing that I was. Get Wright the ball.
You can run your brackets online for free with Bracket Manager. On CBS Sportsline, invite your friends, fill out a bracket, and let Bracket Manager do the rest. Sign up now, cbssportsline.com/brackets. Ellington collects his second. It'll be a 1-and-1 for Henderson. You look at Duke, though, in that very high computer ranking, 9th in the country, 3rd nationally strength of schedule, only bettered by Florida and Kentucky.
Florida, by the way, today, for those who had a chance, as I did, to watch them play, that looked like the Florida team that made a run in the NCAA tournament. Not like the one that played against an outstanding Tennessee team and some of the other losses they've had in the SEC.
Ellington gets free and over to Shire. That's the amazing thing about the Gators. You're talking about a Tennessee performance that was ugly, and then this win against Kentucky all in the same week.
Yeah, I didn't recognize that Florida team in the Tennessee game, but today they look like the Florida club of last year.
And that breaks a 4-minute field goal drought by Duke.
There's Lawson again, just putting it in overdrive. He makes things happen when he penetrates.
Paulus with the shot at the other end. Get it down to 8. Thompson, turnaround short. Boxed out by Henderson.
Good defensive job by Henderson. Thompson has had some decent looks in the post. That's about his 4th shot in the low post. Roberts, a great passer. Number 2 to Paulus on this team in assists.
Well, that one picked off by Carolina.
You got to think of who you're throwing it to.
Hansbrough trying to draw the foul, and it was rebounded by McRoberts. And a mix-up and a turnover back to Carolina. 32-24 Tar Heels, 3.5 to go first half. Another flashback. 1995, these two at Cameron. North Carolina heavily favored. Duke without Coach K that season. Carolina led by 3 in overtime. Capel hit the half-court shot, sent it to double overtime, but the Tar Heels won it 102-100.
You're watching NCAA college basketball on CBS.
The madness begins. 65 teams are invited to the Big Dance, the NCAA Basketball Selection Show, next Sunday on CBS.
Catch every game of the first 3 rounds in their entirety with Mega March Madness as DirecTV supplements CBS's coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship.
Get more historic NCAA tournament highlights and exclusive video of the 2007 Men's and Women's NCAA Basketball Championship on your mobile phone. Available only on your AT&T or Singular wireless phone. Singular is now the new AT&T.
Jimmy, you were talking about that double overtime game in '95. Looking back, you know, when you do a game like this, you look back over that history and Capel's famous shot. But that dropped Duke to 0-7 in the ACC. I mean, that just sounds like it. No, that couldn't have ever happened in their history.
So that was the lost season. Coach K was unable to complete the year. Come back. Program rebuilt again. More championships shortly followed. Here's Hansbrough on the blocks. Zubek defending. Miller's back in there, the senior who started. 6 on the shot clock. Lawson, Hansbrough, good night.
Zubek has to stay at home on that play. Again, though, Lawson breaking people down off the dribble.
Back to a 10-point lead.
Lawson, number 2 assist turnover ratio in the ACC. You just have to stay at home if you're a big man because he'll find people inside.
Foul on Brandon Wright.
There's that tremendous explosiveness, and you see Zubek getting out of position. Comes all the way across the lane. Lawson will find the open man. And I'd say Hansbrough's a pretty good finisher.
He has 8 points. He's going to get a little breather now. At 8 points. Tied with Brandon Wright for the most on the North Carolina side. And Henderson comes back in for DeMarcus Nelson.
Jim, I talked about McRoberts before. Could have been the first big man since Danny Ferry to lead Duke in assists, but today he already has 6 turnovers. Duke is a team on the year turning the ball, having more turnovers than they do assists as a team. Very difficult to stay consistent offensively when you're doing that, particularly when you don't have that third scorer that can explode for you.
No, got 1 of 2. Carolina with 2.5 to go in the first half, leading by 9.
Good no call.
Miller with the three. And Zubak pulls it away.
Got to question the shot selection there. Total motion offense by Duke. A lot of screens, a lot of reads.
Oh, and it's going the other way. They're going to call it against Zubak. Coming up, AT&T at the half with Greg and Seth. All the scores and highlights, plus an AT&T Naismith watch update coming up on the AT&T at the half.
Jim, one thing Roy Williams will appreciate of the first half effort, his team in those losses to NC State. State shot 60%. Maryland shot 64% in the second half. Georgia Tech shot 62% in the game. They're holding Duke down today under 35, doing a much better job.
That's going to be called against Brandon Wright as McClure was defending. Duke turnovers, Billy, you talked about it. There's one of McRoberts.
Yep, 57 more turnovers and assists as a team on the year. Trying to do things that are just not there. That was an odd call as well. I thought that Wright was fouled.
You thought McClure had reached around?
Yep.
That's the second on Brandon Wright instead. Nelson short on the jumper. Ginyard.
Yeah, he's looking for Lawson, couldn't find him.
Bounces it in, and Rayshon Terry finishes. Back to an 11-point lead. Match is the largest of the game.
Solid performance by the senior today, Jim. He started and normally does, and started on senior day and playing well.
Underneath defending, it's Ginyard, who's quite the defender for the Tar Heels.
He really is. How about the way he fought through those screens to get there to Nelson?
Lawson gets open, and now the number is 13 with a minute to go in the half.
Jim, when he puts the ball on the floor, and we saw it as an example in the Arizona game, he is so quick and so strong that he becomes an offense all to himself.
It's an 11-3 spurt by the Tar Heels. 40 seconds to go in the half. Nelson, that's a three, and brings it back down to 10.
Roberts got by with an illegal screen that time on Ginyard.
Roy Williams signals over to the freshman point. Let's run it down to the last shot.
Nelson on Lawson. Nelson, a terrific defender as well, did a great job on Jared Dudley. Held him to just 5 shots. The man that'll probably be ACC Player of the Year. So it shows his versatility as a defender. Dudley down to Lawson.
7 seconds, Lawson. Drives right past Nelson. Puts it up too strong. And the foul against Carolina.
That was Thompson from behind, an obvious push.
And they'll be shooting at the other end. For Thompson, his first. And that's a double bonus situation, so it could have been, you think about it, it was a 13-point North Carolina lead. Duke hits the three. Carolina was trying to get the last shot. Failed to get it to drop. Foul on the offensive rebound attempt. McRoberts can bring the number down with 2.8 seconds. 2 shots.
Now Duke goes to the line a lot. They're shooting 180 more free throws than their opponents. North Carolina doing likewise, but unlike most years, Duke actually makes more than their opponents even shoot. Now North Carolina still has that same statistic, although Duke has a big disparagement between their opponents. They this year do not make more than their opponents shoot.
Well, that'll end the first half. North Carolina 38 and Duke 29. AT&T at the half is coming up with Greg and Seth back in the studio. Behind Hansbrough, Carolina leads it.
CBS Sports presents AT&T at the half. Singular is now the new AT&T.
Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel. Welcome to AT&T at the half. After 20 minutes of play in Chapel Hill, it's North Carolina by a 38-29 score. I'm joined by Seth Davis. Let's talk about the first half of that game. It's a tall order for anybody to go in there and beat Carolina.
Especially when North Carolina is playing this well defensively. Duke only shooting 35% from the floor. Josh McRoberts, 6 turnovers already. That's huge for North Carolina if they can stay committed to playing defense, Greg, because they're not a great half-court offensive team.
Okay, speaking of Carolina, Tyler Hansbrough of the Tar Heels is another candidate on our Naismith watch.
Yeah, he's made a great case to be ACC Player of the Year along with Jared Dudley of Boston College. He's got 8 points and 8 rebounds in the first half. He's 4th in the ACC in scoring, 3rd in rebounding, a big-time force in the middle.
The Naismith Watch, presented by AT&T. Text the word VOTE to 87654 on your AT&T or singular wireless phone to register. Voting for the Naismith Trophy winner will begin when 4 finalists are announced on March the 18th. For more information, go to cbs.sportsline.com. Now, to the scores and highlights. In the SEC, Kentucky at number 4, Florida. Joakim Noah, 17 points, 10 rebounds, and this magnanimous follow off the Chris Richard miss.
Generous indeed, and Florida came out with a lot more energy today, Greg. That's what they needed to do. That's Al Horford on the jam, and then Joakim Noah is going to get the lucky bounce. I still think they're going to need to win the SEC tournament to get a 1 seed, but that helped.
Meanwhile, in the Missouri Valley Conference Championship game, Creighton center Anthony Tolliver, they just couldn't hold him inside. Tough move.
Yeah, he's a major load in the post, but this has been the guy all year long for Creighton. Nate Funk going to get the score. 19 points, 4 assists. A terrific championship win for the Blue Jays.
In the Big East, Seton Hall at Louisville. David Padgett ahead of the pack. Gives the Cardinals a 2-point lead.
Louisville's a great example of a team that was young, didn't play well early, grew up fast. Derek Carricker, the freshman, with the follow, and then Terrence Williams, the sophomore, going to get the assist from Earl Clark. Louisville has now won 6 in a row heading into the tournament.
In the ACC, Clemson at number 21, Virginia Tech beat Tech Xavier Dowdell to catch and shoot for the lead, 74-73 Hokies.
Well, Clemson's needed a big road win all year. They got one today. Casey Rivers here with the game winner. Too little, too late, I think, to get an at-large.
Tech's second home loss this year. Boston College at Georgia Tech. Thaddeus Young with the steal and the finish. And Georgia Tech jumps off to a quick 16-2 lead.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, another young team that's really growing up this year. That's the freshman Crittenden to Jeremy Smith. And then Crittenden is going to take the pass from his fellow freshman, Thaddeus Young. I think Georgia Tech was already in the tournament, but a win today seals it.
Tech, a 20-point lead late in the game. In the SEC, Alabama at Mississippi State. Dietrich Slater with the steal. Up ahead for Reginald Delk for the layup, 48-41, Bulldogs by 7.
2 teams, I think, are out of the at-large mix right now for Mississippi State. Ben Hansbrough is going to knock down the 3 that put him up by 8 at that point, and then Dietrich Slater misses the shot. Jarvis Bernardo tips it in for the Bulldogs.
91-67, Mississippi State, the winner. We remind you, 1 week from tonight, 6 Eastern, CBS Sports brings you live exclusive coverage of the announcement of the 65-team tournament field on the NCAA Basketball Championship Selection Show. And the selection committee gets down to business this Wednesday in Indianapolis. Seth is about to share his thoughts on how the top 16 seeds just might shake
Well,
out.
I know they're TiVoing this, so I like to give all these helpful suggestions. My first suggestion would be only to have 3 number 3 seeds, because I had a very hard time picking the 4th one there. I gave the edge to Duke because Southern Illinois lost today, so they go from a 3 to a 4. Duke has no losses outside the top 50, so for right now, they're hanging on, and you've got some teams that are knocking at the door of a possible number 4 seed. Remember Butler, if they win the Horizon. Texas could use some other wins. Nevada sitting at 26-3. And how about UNLV, Greg, in the Mountain West? They're ranked 12th in the RPI. If they win that conference tournament, they might be able to get into the top 16. But like I said, after Washington State on that 3 line, there's a big-time muddle going into that 4 line.
You know, it's very possible that any one of your number 2 seeds there really could pop up as a number 1 by a week from today.
Well, North Carolina is my top number 2 seed, so I have them paired with Wisconsin. And obviously, either Wisconsin or Ohio State will not win the Big Ten tournament, so one of those teams will probably drop down to it too. The bottom line for me, Greg, is I think you need to win your conference tournament to merit getting a number 1 seed, and that's going to have to shake out next weekend.
All right, Seth, thank you for joining us here on AT&T at the half. We'll get you back out to Jim and Billy for the second half of Duke and North Carolina after this.
CBS Sports presents AT&T at the half. Singular is now the new AT&T.
North Carolina's biggest lead was 13. The margin is 9, second half minutes away. CBS Sports college basketball coverage is sponsored by Sonic. It's not just good, it's Sonic good. Capital One's new no-hassle cash rewards. What's in your wallet? And powered by Pontiac, official performance machines of the NCAA. We are back, Jim Nance, with Billy Packer. My partner will be soon embarking on his 33rd road to the Final Four. Hall of Fame stuff. Partner, I'm looking forward to sharing the journey with you again this year.
Same here, James.
It's going to be a lot of fun. What did you think of that first half?
Well, I think that the game played out the way you would expect, with the exception of some statistical things that really surprised you. Points in the paint. Duke doing a terrific job rebounding, staying right with North Carolina. But what's killing them is turning the ball over with their passing, particularly McRoberts, who has 6 turnovers.
And that's the Capital One first half stats. Take a look at Hansbrough and his shot chart, Billy, in that first half.
Well, I think that North Carolina's big advantage with Wright and Hansbrough on the inside. You can see Hansbrough, when he touches it in there, he is going to score. He needs a lot more touches. Wright ended up 4 for 4 in the first half. And, of course, the big man in the first game against East Sioux team was Shire. And he's not getting any looks today whatsoever because he's been guarded by Terry and Ginyard, who have the size to take away that jump shot. Nice roll.
Easy shot right away as Terry feeds it to Hansbrough for the basket.
I think when McRoberts has Hansbrough that far from the basket, he should not pick up his dribble. Try to drive by him and pick up a cheap foul. Now it's Ellington on Shire.
And Nelson left open with the 3, and it rims out.
And here comes that one-man offense. And what's so good about Lawson, he knows when to pull it back out.
Right, with a good feed. Hansbrough blocked once by McRoberts. Stays with it for another basket.
He is so strong in that upper body, and he keeps his feet together in nice balance so he doesn't walk when he has a little push inside to throw him off balance.
Shire again shut out in that first half. Puts up the shot. 0 for 4 from the field. McRoberts tips the second one in. McRoberts now in the game with 5 offensive rebounds. There's Lawson, so speedy.
Just turned the corner all by himself.
That one spins out.
Jimmy, you talk about guys fighting for position with their feet to get the square-up jump shot. Lawson didn't do that time, and he certainly had time to do it.
Henderson, high-arcing shot goes. Now with 12.
Off to a great start. Got Duke going in that first half, then cooled off a little bit.
Right, so strong. Boy, he just backed in. Henderson.
5 for 5. Henderson giving up too much size with Wright.
That's his first field goal, Billy, since the 12:49 mark of the first half. Shire splits the defenders, gets it up and in. His first points of the game and a timeout called by Duke.
Just as the case with Ellington, you've got that pump fake when you have the jump shooting ability and go on by with the dribble.
So it's still 9, just as it was at halftime. Timeout, Blue Devils.
Jim, I want you to watch McRoberts here. He's looking at Hansbrough, who's about to pass. Then his head will turn and face in that direction. His job was to get his feet over here. Watch what breaks down when he turns his head. And here comes Hansbrough right down the lane. McRoberts is on the wrong side defensively. Easy layup for North Carolina.
Hansbrough with a double-double in this game already. There he is. Going to sit down for a minute. He's got 12 points, 10 rebounds. Duke took the quick timeout after the made basket by John Shire.
Wright asked to come out, Jim, right away after he made that basket, and he's right back out on the floor, so he got that rest during the timeout. Hansbrough is going to do the same thing.
You can't let up defending on Lawson because he'll take it right to the all the way end to end in about 3 seconds. Ellington. Tough shot right over Paulus, and McRoberts able to bring it down for Duke.
Well, this North Carolina freshman class is the leading scoring freshman class that they've ever had at this school. 4 of them on the floor right now for North Carolina.
Only the senior, Rayshawn Terry, a non-freshman in that mix, and a kick and a reset on the 35 for Duke. Here's the North Carolina defense. Take a look.
That's good anticipation by Terry coming from the weak side. Excellent shot blocking ability by so many of the different players for North Carolina. And here comes Lawson. When he gets going, Jim, as I said, it's a one-man offense because he's now making excellent decisions as to when to pull the ball back out. He is not a Phil Ford yet, but that's what Phil Ford was so great at doing.
Henderson spots up three. No. Tipped out.
Look at the quickness.
Lawson, but Henderson dives on the floor. Paulus comes out with it, bounces it inside, and it was good for two to Nelson.
Between offensive rebounding and just good hustle, Duke staying in this ball game when it seems that North Carolina is the superior team.
And Hansbrough back out there for North Carolina. Seeing a 13-point lead now reduced to 7. Lawson, there it is. In the end in no time.
You have got to get in front of him and just try to slow that dribble down. Don't try to steal it from him.
Paulus comes back with a 3.
Then we talked about how he has become a scorer. Last 9 games averaging over 15 points a game. Not afraid to take that three-point shot, which he's improved almost 15% on his percentage as a three-point shooter over last year.
He's made 3 of them in this game. He's got 11 on the afternoon. And away from the ball, foul is called against Duke. Paulus is 3rd.
And not the kind of foul you want Paulus to pick up if you're Duke. He was away from the ball, trying to stop a cutter.
We saw how quickly Lawson took it to the hole. 6:40, Tar Heels.
North Carolina players broke too quickly there.
In the paint, Hansbrough. Tipped up once, twice. Terry feeds underneath.
One pass too many by Terry. Probably should have finished it off himself.
And Duke can edge even closer. Shire, 3. And he will go to the line for 3 attempts.
And Jim, there was a mental mistake by Terry. Had a chance to score on the inside. Turn the ball over.
Foul on Danny Green. We'll come back with free throws in a moment, but look back to 98 when these two collided at Cameron. Duke was ranked 1, Carolina was ranked 3rd. Brandon Haywood went to the line, critical free throw at the end. Missed it. Duke won it 77-75, giving Coach K his 500th career win. Well, just a thunderous ovation moments ago as the North Carolina women's team, fresh off this afternoon, winning the ACC tournament, celebrating their victory here at the Dean Dome.
Jim, they beat NC State. Yesterday, the ACC did a great thing. I think Kay Yao, the incredibly great coach at NC State's women's team, they upset #1 Duke, had been undefeated. Yesterday, the ACC honored 2 women that have fought that cancer battle, Kay Yao and Debbie Ryan. Debbie Ryan, the outstanding coach from Virginia. 2 ladies I've known for a long, long time. They could coach any sport, men or women. They really know how to put a team on the floor.
One more coming for Shire. Congratulations to Sylvia Hatchell and the Lady Tar Heels with their tournament title today. Over in Greensboro, make their way over here for a well-deserved recognition.
And at halftime, we saw Anson Durant go out there again at halftime with his national champion women's soccer team. You talk about a tradition.
Duke has cut it to 4. Left open. Lawson. Paulus.
Lawson stood and watched that shot. If Paulus had been thinking he could have got that ball down court to Shire, it would have been wide open.
It's a 13-4 stretch for the Blue Devils.
10 on the shot clock.
Paulus, too strong with the shot. He was able to get free.
He sure was, Jim. He had a wide open look there.
And Lawson again races down the floor. Hansbrough with the second try, and it's rejected by the foul.
Well, McRoberts got the good block, but Shire put his hands down low on Hansbrough.
Shire's first.
And there again, that one man. Lawson gets it down inside.
Here's Hansbrough, who was sick midweek. He had to go to the Carolina hospitals here, the medical center on campus, get some fluids, some IVs. They bring in Miller, they bring in Fraser, they bring in Gilliard.
Something also interesting about Hansbrough, he does not particularly like to fly, and after the loss at Georgia Tech the other night, he heard about all the wind and the tough flight that was ahead, so he took a bus back from Atlanta to Chapel Hill and almost beat the team back. They said it was one of the
roughest flights of all time.
Yeah, one of the most difficult flights they've ever had. So, and Roy Williams said, you know, I don't think you're too smart riding the bus, but when the flight was all over, he said, no, I think you're the smartest guy out here.
Yeah, he stood up on it as soon as they landed and said, guys, gentlemen, Hansbrough's the smartest guy I know, but he had been, of course, queasy and uneasy all week, so they kept him on the bus. So Ginyard is in, that defensive giant for them, #1 for North Carolina. Back to a 6-point lead. Nelson.
Beautiful job by Nelson and McRoberts on that solid screen. A really good read by Nelson.
At 9 now in the game. Double team. Hansbrough, though able to still get off the good baseline jumper.
Jim, he was looking actually to throw that ball back out, but couldn't find anybody, so took the shot anyway.
He's got 16 on the game, 8 in each half. Nelson just hit one, this time trying to make it from 3. Henderson tips it over. Heads up play by the freshman.
But if you're Terry, you never want to throw that ball back into the other team's basket. Throw it long in the direction of your basket.
McRoberts uses the window.
North Carolina finds themselves in one of those strange lineups on the floor again.
Race to the corner, and that'll go to Duke. If you're stuck in the office and can't get to a TV, then sign up for NCAA March Madness on demand and watch the men's tournament online. Get your free VIP pass now at ncaasports.com/MMOD. March Madness on demand.
You notice how often when Duke is pressed, McRoberts will be the guy to come back and be the outlet because he can dribble the ball up the court against any big man. He not only handles it well, he makes pretty good decisions bringing the ball up the court.
They've got 8 on the shot clock. Miller defending on Paulus. Now it's Hansbrough. Paulus, tough shot. Right over Hansbrough, and Paulus delivers the swish. And it's down to 2.
Well, if there's any weakness that Duke has that jumps out at you, is that being able to finish as the clock goes down, because they don't have those explosive scores. But Paulus really did a job there, and Duke is putting on quite a show here coming back.
What a comeback. 13 down in this half. They can tie it with a 2, take the lead with a 3. Paulus driving again. McClure unable to get the handle, and it's Fraser coming out of it. Hansbrough and 1.
Just so strong. If you're McRoberts, the best thing to do there is just to stand with your arms down, try to draw the charge, because you're not going to block him in that power position.
Foul on McRoberts coming off the first Duke turnover of the half. They beat him down court. Second foul on McRoberts, and Hansbrough can up the margin to 5. 18 points, 12 rebounds. Shire on the bench for Duke.
This is kind of opposite of that game. Remember, last year, UNC was down. They made the big comeback. Reddick had the 35-point game. Duke pulled it out.
Henderson, who just came back in, replacing Shire. Fadeaway jumper, beauty.
And there was good recognition by Henderson. Lawson's guarding him. He can shoot over the top of him with a Good height advantage.
He's got 14, one off his career high, set this week against Maryland. Hansbrough takes baseline. That one slides off the rim. Ball last touch by Duke.
Good job by Henderson, though. That would have been an easy putback. Henderson got his hands on the ball.
So a break in the action. And it's a tight one here in Tar Heel country. At the Dean Dome, the lead is 3 for Roy Williams' side. CBS Sports College Basketball coverage is sponsored by Charles Schwab. Great service, great price. Why not both? Talk to Chuck. Charles Schwab. The United States Postal Service. Let your packages know their ride is here. Go to USPS.com. And by Chevrolet, an American Revolution. Oh, Billy, you know, there's such a disparity in the teams that you play against within your own division when you talk about these massive conferences now.
Absolutely. Look at Duke within their own conference. 51.8% of what the teams they played in the league. Virginia in the same league, only 46%. Jim, I don't think I've ever seen the last day mean so much to teams as it does. And North Carolina is an example beyond anything I've ever seen. If they lose this ball game, they go down to 5th. They have to play it 4 days in the ACC to win a championship. They win the game, and they're the #1 seed. It's amazing.
Ginyard hits the 3, and Lawson almost steals the inbound. Yeah, again, North Carolina, if it wins, would share the regular season title with Virginia, but would earn the #1 seed because they beat the Cavaliers in their only matchup this year. A loss, and they fall all the way to 5 and have to play the extra game in the tournament this week in Tampa. Nick Roberts can't get the short one to go, and Wright pulling it down for North Carolina.
And Nick Roberts realizes he can score off of that dribble against big men. He is going to move his scoring average up 3 or 4 points, I believe.
And that's going the other way. It's called against Terry.
Nice job of moving his feet.
First foul of the game against Terry. Nick Roberts drawing it.
Terrific job of moving those feet and getting out for a big man. Nick Roberts plays 35 minutes a game, Jim. Handles the ball in the backcourt, has to guard all kinds of people in the front court. Give him a lot of credit.
Henderson, push off, whistle first, and it's going the other way.
You know, I wonder if he learned that from a North Carolina player. Michael Jordan. the little hand push off and get off the jumper and then just smile. Unfortunately for Henderson, the referee was right in the corner with him.
I think he might have learned it from his father.
That's a possibility too.
Shot.
Yeah, but he
of his own.
I don't think he had to push off. Gerald didn't.
Hansbrough. Awkward shot, and it goes. Now with 21.
He's doing his Sean May impersonation here with the kind of game he's having.
Nelson, back of the rim, and it's Hansbrough again. I'll tell you, they came out of that timeout, North Carolina, ratcheting up the intensity. Ginyard puts it up short. Nelson with the rebound. Came right out of that break, in fact, with Ginyard hitting a 3.
Nick Roberts is getting a little tired. Seeing a lot of fresh bodies in him, just like in the first game over at Duke. North Carolina wore the Blue Devils down.
And that's Lawson, too close.
Well, Lawson felt the screen coming from Nick Roberts, fought over the screen, and then picked up the cheap foul.
Shire back on the floor. McClure out. And Ellington. Make that Thompson coming back in for the Tar Heels. So Hansbrough working hard, putting up monster numbers.
Jim, I talked about May's numbers. He had 26 points, 24 rebounds against Duke in that sensational performance in the win, and of course leading that team then to a national championship.
21 and 14 in this game for Hansbrough. Henderson thought about the 3, lost the dribble. Tar Heels come out with it. Lawson had a chance for an open 3.
Good double down on Wright because he had a smaller man on him.
That's Terry. And underneath, Wallace pulling it down.
Oh, bad idea. Bad idea.
Trying to hit Nick Roberts, but Terry read it.
when you're down 8, Jim, you got to make better decisions than that.
Under 9 minutes. Carolina on an 8-2 run. Lawson, Horshaw called on McRoberts.
And that's when you get a little tired instead of moving your feet. There's an example. No reason whatsoever to throw that pass. It had to be picture perfect, and there had to be no defender there that could leap. Neither was the case.
Danny Green on the floor for Terry.
Jim, I mentioned McRoberts was getting a little tired, and you can see that right now. And when you get tired, your feet are not moving as quickly. You start to reach, and that's why he picked up that cheap foul.
His third on the game. 2 of them have come in the last minute. Inside Hansbrough. And the whistle first.
Shire on the push. He's just too small to handle that guy on the inside like Hansbrough.
Second on Shire.
That was on John Shire. Second.
Well, Duke had pulled within 2 and had possession. Now it's 8 and North Carolina basketball.
That was a hold by McRoberts. Did he get by with it?
They got away with it, but the ball last touched by Duke.
Mike Krzyzewski trying to save some timeouts, but McRoberts could really use one now. There's no way he's probably going to get a break substitution-wise. Young guy has gotten himself in great condition.
10-second shot clock. And what a move it is by Marcus Ginyard.
Ginyard 6'6", Paula 6'1", went right over the top. Duke in trouble now.
Back to a double-digit lead. Nelson.
You've got tired bodies going against fresh bodies.
Carolina driving down, and Henderson pulls it down out of the air, and a foul called.
Roy Williams wanting a goaltend there, but I think Henderson got it on the way up.
It's a 10-2 stretch to open it back to a double-digit margin. Another flashback. 2004 right here. One of the best games in the rivalry. Rashad McCants with a 3 to tie the game in overtime. Chris Duhon went the length of the floor for the layup. Duke won at 83-81 in OT. And Jim Nance and Billy Packer here in Chapel Hill. Paulist picking up his 4th. Sitting down now. He's leading the Devils with 13 points. Actually, Henderson with 14, top scoring man. But on the other side, huge numbers by Hansbrough. 21 points, 14 rebounds. Lawson at the line to shoot 2. Now, we talked about North Carolina's scenario. It wins, it'll have the 1 seed in the tournament, ACC tournament that is. If it loses, it's number 5. If Duke wins this game, they'll be the 6. And if they lose here, they'll be number 7. Georgia Tech with a win today. And you Boston College will be the 6.
And you look at Duke in the last 10 years, they've either won the ACC regular season or the ACC tournament. They've won 7 of the past 8 ACC tournaments, but they didn't win any of those, Jim, having to play 4 days.
And the last 8 years, they're 23-1 in that tournament. Behind the back, McClure did not put up the shot. And the foul's called against Lawson.
That was a valuable timeout and rest for McRoberts.
How about Duke, though? This week, the computer says you're the 9th best team in the country in the RPI, and you're going to end up being the 7th seed in your own conference tournament. How does that work?
That's what Mike Krzyzewski was talking about the other day. The difficulty of their schedule. They've had, obviously, some outstanding wins against non-conference teams as well, beating the likes of Georgetown, being number 1 seed in the Big East.
Gonzaga, Indiana, Air Force.
Right. Outstanding wins.
McRoberts. And Foul outside first against Wright.
Jim, there's what I'm talking about. McRoberts is starting as the second half of this season to understand that he can put the ball on the floor and finish inside against these big people. Prior to that time, he would kind of look to pass first.
3 fouls on Brandon Wright. Only the 5th team foul. Shire.
Well, as North Carolina done a good job on him today, taking away any decent looks.
Well, not taken away. Look at the way Wright took that rebound. Shire 1 of 6 for the game.
Beautiful pass.
On the blocks, Hansbrough delivers again.
That was a beautiful pass, and Hansbrough sitting down low instead of having his knees locked high, was able to go down and get it. Great feed.
Henderson on the drive and the dunk, and he is becoming an offensive force here late in the season. He is now with 16 points at a new career high.
Oh, look at that move.
Lawson
Stopping on a dime.
at the margin, 14. Henderson's basket broke a 5-minute scoring drought for the Devils. McClure denied by Wright. Six minutes remaining. Carolina regaining control of this. And that's McRoberts picking up his 4th.
You just cannot reach out to that young man. He's too strong. There's Wright with those long arms. Plays like he's about 7'2" or 3. Look at that extension.
It'll be a 1-and-1 coming up for Lawson. Zubak coming back for Duke. Fraser for North Carolina. Actually, Fraser will replace the shooter, so he'll have to sit out for a moment.
You can see Mike Krzyzewski taking McRoberts out, realizing that the big man is just so tired, he has to get a blow despite what the score is up there.
Deion Thompson back on the floor for North Carolina. 1-and-1 coming up for Lawson. What you love on this line, 5 assists, 1 turnover. And he does not get the second one because he misses the front end. But he's had a great ratio this year, Billy, assist to turnovers.
He really has. The last 2 games, he's had 17 assists. Early in the year, in the game against Winthrop, he had 5 turnovers in the first half. You tell me he hadn't improved?
With the Zubak.
Well, every pass is contested by North Carolina. That's much fresher and much quicker now. There you go again.
Traveling called on Shire. Near the end of today's game, Billy and I will select a Chevrolet player of the game from each team to honor their determination and outstanding play. Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund. America's brand supports America's best. Chevy, an American revolution.
You know, another thing, we keep talking about these seeds, Jim. 8 of the last 9 years, Duke has been a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Just think about what you're talking about in the ACC tournament. 8 of 9 years as a #1 seed in the Big League.
Zubak called for that, and again, we speculated on each team's seeds in the first half. We could see a scenario for sure where North Carolina could move up to the 1 line, depending on the results next week. And Duke possibly, I saw where Seth Davis at halftime also thought Duke was possibly a potential 3.
I'll tell you what's going to be interesting for that committee. The most interesting thing is how they're going to determine the values of some of these major conferences because of the disparity, with the exception of the Pac-10, with people not playing each other.
That's the thing you showed with the ACC, too. Strength of schedule within outside your own
inside the own league, it's going to be very difficult. The other thing that I think is knocking on the door is Texas A&M, to me, is one of the most complete teams in the country. Kansas obviously is as well. Can the Big 12 get 2 #1s? I think it's still possible.
Hasn't been a lot of talk about A&M moving all the way up to a 1, but they had a feisty effort. What a game that was early in the week against Texas. Ultimately losing, but a 98-96 thriller. Lance Thomas on the floor for the Blue Devils as Paulus hits the jumper and a quick timeout called by Duke. With 5 minutes remaining. With the lead, 14 for North Carolina. 68-54. If you think FEMA is the first to respond when disaster strikes, you've never met David Canther and his volunteers. Tomorrow, you'll see the story on the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And Jim, a little history tidbit, too, in regard to these two coaches we have here today. Mike Krzyzewski now with 68 NCAA tournament wins, and the percentage of almost 79% of those wins is the #1 all-time winningest coach in the NCAA. Roy Williams, he's got 42 wins in the NCAA tournament, so he's about 4th. And he has 17 straight years. He has won a game in the NCAA tournament with a team. No coach approaching that now that's active.
Actually, that ties the all-time record. Dean Smith, 17 straight years with at least 1 win. The 1 win last year was Murray State before the shocker George Mason beat him on that Cinderella run and a hold against North Carolina. So Roy with a chance to break that record in this year's tournament. You got to figure that, you know, they'll have the seeding and significant chance of making it 18 straight years with at least 1 win. And this is also possibly here a milestone day for Roy. If his team holds on to win it, it'll be his 100th win as a North Carolina head coach.
And the only guy that got to 100 quicker than he did was Vic Bubas at Duke by 1 game.
Yeah, 128 games by Bubas. This is 129 for Roy. And Shire hits the 3. Milestone wins for Coach K have also happened on his side against North Carolina. Got his career 500th. We showed it to you earlier. 600th as well. Terry draws the foul on Thomas. I like Hansbrough's chances to be the Chevy MVP of the North Carolina side. What do you think? 25 points, 14 rebounds.
So powerful inside, relentless rebounder, and makes it so tough to guard because he's going to put the ball up. He has good hands inside and excellent footwork. Probably the one game that I saw this year is when he played Gonzaga. Gonzaga gave him fits. Heifeld, unfortunately, will no longer be playing there at Gonzaga. Tremendous loss for that team, and a young man that certainly threw away some tremendous opportunities.
Gonzaga beat North Carolina. Duke beat Gonzaga early in the year. Terry hits them both. Gonzaga one of 6 losses by the Tar Heels. Virginia Tech beating them twice. NC State, Maryland, and Georgia Tech. And there was a foul right on the pass called against Frazier. Carolina came into this game on a 2-game losing streak. It's only losing streak of the season, trying to prevent Roy from having his first 3-game skid as the Carolina head coach.
And Jim, those 2 games against 2 teams that are really on a roll right now. Maryland, which we talked about earlier, and Georgia Tech, a team that's extremely young but showed again today that they are going to have to be reckoned with. Paul Hewitt's got a club that's deep, a lot of power in the front line, and a terrific freshman guard in Crittenton.
How deep do you go with the ACC and the NCAAs this year? Clemson with a big win today. You got Florida State out there. People wondering about their chances. You got Georgia Tech in, I take it.
Yeah, I would think Georgia Tech is in. I think that Florida State is probably the one on the bubble. With Al Thornton, certainly one of the best players in the country.
Under 4 minutes remaining. 11-point lead for North Carolina.
White's having all kinds of trouble slipping around over on that side, and there's a hold
on Thomas. Adelsan, Hansbrough to the line out of the break. He'll be shooting 2 out of a double bonus. Hansbrough putting up big points and rebounds, leading the way for North Carolina. Tonight on CBS 60 Minutes, one of the most respected money men in America has a message about the future you can't afford to miss. Followed by new episodes of The Amazing Race All-Stars, Cold Case, and Without a Trace. All tonight on America's #1 network. North Carolina, as a team, 12 out of 13 at the line. And just as you say that, Hansbrough clanks the first. He's got 1 more.
Jimmy had 14 out of 15 free throws against Georgia Tech this year. He gets on, as I mentioned, on that line a lot and capable of making it. You love a big guy that's going to go to the line and can drop foul shots.
Player who reached 1,000 points in his career faster than anyone at North Carolina in terms of number of games since Charlie Scott. Paulus has to put up the 3. Comes up short. It's right, clearing. Got numbers. North Carolina pushes it up. Terry takes the bank shot.
That was a beautiful pass by Frazier. A no-looker. He eyed Hansbrough and threw the other way. Excellent break. All started by Wright's rebound. And
wow, what a block that time. Ginyard drives, rolls off the rim, and it's Hansbrough.
Who else?
Comes up short. Paulus comes flying out of there. Whips it to the corner. Henderson with the three, and it spins out.
But this is not the game that Duke wants to be playing against North Carolina. Example.
Frazier.
It's just a different sport. And Duke doesn't want to play this sport, Jim. 90 feet back and forth.
16-point lead and a whistle. Ties the biggest lead of the game.
Frazier, good job looking one way. Before that, made the pass. That time just looked him off for the layup. Jimmy, you mentioned a name that jumped out. Charlie Scott. 40 points is what he scored against Duke in the ACC tournament final. A couple other 40-point games, and the biggest game ever by a player in this North Carolina Duke game was Art Heyman back in 1963. His final game, 40 points, 24 rebounds. Pretty fair game.
Those are good numbers.
I mean, we saw May in the incredible game that he had with the 24 rebounds and 26 points, but Art Heyman, 40 points, 24 rebounds.
Hansbrough and to head to the bench for a moment, and he's back out on the floor. He's got a career high matching, that is 15 rebounds, ties his high. Maybe he'll get one more and set it.
Last year he had 40 points in a ball game as a freshman, the first ACC freshman ever to do that, did Hansbrough.
His numbers with Heyman reminded me of the numbers you got into the debate last week with about Greg Oden, comparing him with great centers all time in college. And
yeah, we don't want to go there. That bar has been set by the Kareems and the Waltons and the Bill Russells. And players have to look at what real history was before they start getting compared with those kind of people.
Wright with that huge wingspan, and the shot tipped up.
That was Wright's first miss today. He's only had 5 attempts, though. And I think North Carolina got away from him in the first half when they didn't need to.
Shire hits the three, and a timeout Duke. Brings it to 11, just inside of 2 minutes. 75-64 North Carolina. This is the RPI, the ratings index. Southern Illinois, which lost today in the Valley Final, number 4. I mentioned Duke a couple times, been inside the top 10. They moved back out of it after their loss during the week.
How about Maryland going
number
from
9?
The 40s down to number 9? That's incredible.
How much stock do you think they put into this thing? The RPI.
Last year, a lot less than what is written about it.
Last year, I thought the RPI would RIP.
Well, Jim, Selection Sunday, I'm going to make a recommendation for future years in regard to the committee that I hope gets an opportunity to be followed.
Double team on Hansbrough and a timeout call.
Hansbrough is so strong, even with 2 men, he ended up with that ball.
So Duke feisty, Hansbrough able to get the timeout call. 1:51 left. Of course, we have the selection show on CBS coming up in exactly 1 week from this hour. And I take it you're going to wait, and that's what we call a tease, Billy. You're going to tell us about that next Sunday with that exclusive announcement of the selection.
Well, let's not get carried away now. That's not the question.
No, you're the one that said it, and I'm anxious to hear what it is. Ginyard, bring it back out.
Duke going into a half-court trap right now.
And a reach in on Shire.
And I'd give so much credit to Mike Krzyzewski's team right now at the effort that they are giving against a team that is much deeper. And they're still out there now trying to press half court.
And Billy, just to back up what you're saying, Bob Dekas and Bob Fishman saying, let's promote that selection show next Sunday, 6 o'clock Eastern time. We'll have the exclusive first look at the field. Who's in, who's out. who's playing whom and when with Greg and Clark and Seth. Billy and I will be there to handle some of the questioning as well next week.
You know, Jim, college basketball has changed so much in the last 10 years that, you know, there used to be times when you'd sit and you'd be thinking about 4 or 5 teams. I wonder, you know, if they'd get in or not get in. I wonder where they'll be placed. Now you're talking about like 50 teams you shake up in a bag and could make a case for a certain position in the seed.
More for Terry. Makes it 13. I can remember years on this 1 week before the selection. You were saying, maybe 8 to 12 teams could win the title. Paulus Long with the 3. Ginyard tips it over to Terry. How about this year? How many teams do they could win it? Could actually win a national championship?
I'm going to tell you this. I say there are 50 teams in the country that could beat any other team in the country in a given day. I really believe that.
Is that 50 teams that can win a championship?
No. There aren't 50 teams that can win 6 games, but there are 50 teams, in my estimation, that could beat the guy that can win 6.
Could this be, even, let me get way out there, could this be a year where, like, even something crazy like a 16 beats a 1 for the first time?
No, we're not going to go there.
You know, there have been close calls.
Well, we had 2 last year that were pretty good.
We had Albany against Connecticut.
And Monmouth Villanova.
Yep. Well, particularly the Albany game, which we came on camera at the beginning, you said they have no chance. No chance.
Boy, you're killing me.
They led.
First game back, and you're killing me.
They led with 11 minutes to go in the game. Who knows?
Well, North Carolina had a real job today to go from potential number 5 seed to a number 1 seed. A lot on the line for them. And it looks like they've pulled it off.
They're going to be the 1. Duke's going to be the 7 inside their conference tournament. Gerald Henderson and Tyler Hansbrough are the Chevrolet players of the game in recognition of their outstanding play. Chevrolet with a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund.
And Lawson goes out. Roy Williams gives him a good slap. And he gave him a slap the other night a little bit that Lawson did not start because of poor practice play down at Georgia Tech. But he certainly came back today and showed why he is so tough to handle.
When he fouls out with 11 points. People used to make a big deal about freshman point guards being able to direct a team to a national championship. I wouldn't think that kid, that would be too much of a concern, would you? If Lawson,
no, not at all,
be able to handle that?
Not at all.
Sure. And Shire fouls Ginyard.
Boy, Shire's got some huge scratches on him right now.
Yeah, right off his shoulder, his right arm.
They're not drawing any blood, but he really has been scratched up.
Marcus Ginyard on the line. Free throws.
North Carolina had a 12-2 run to start the game, led by 9 at halftime, built the lead up to 16.
And what they did do today is that they took away those incredible shooting percentages that they've had against them lately. The lack of real solid defense. Roy Williams' club normally very balanced in regard to field goal shooting percentage and field goal defensive percentage. But NC State, Maryland, and Georgia Tech buried them.
They built the lead up to 16 again with 1:11 remaining. Timeout, Tar Heels. Again tonight on CBS, 60 Minutes, and then all new Amazing Race All-Stars, all new Cold Case, all new Without a Trace on America's #1 network. Nelson traveled.
Yep.
Carolina has a chance to hand Duke its worst loss of the season. The worst previous loss this year was 12 to Maryland. In the game at Maryland.
Got to get it over.
Yep, 1 second to get it there. Stolen by Paulus. Whip it around. Nelson got the open 3, and it's down to 13, and another timeout.
There's no give up in this Duke team, despite the fact that the odds against them to win this game are impossible, but they are still fighting.
Jim Nance and Billy Packer in the closing minute, and there are going to be the final standings for the top 9.
Jim, a number of years ago when the ACC just had the 8 teams in it, Vic Bubas said someday everybody's going to finish up 7-7 in the league. And you know what? That's about the way it looks.
Miller,
forget it.
Ginyard. One more assist at home for Wes Miller, the senior from Charlotte. Started this game. Frazier on the reach in.
That looked like a pretty good block to me, but you see that fast break in your, who we have said throughout the course of this year can be, and Jim, when you think about it in the NCAA tournament, how often do you see that player from the team you've got to beat, whether he's a guard or a perimeter, who gets on a hot roll? In Ginyard, North Carolina has the kind of guy that may be able to stop that. We saw it last year, LSU Duke, remember? Who can stop Riddick? All of a sudden, LSU puts a guy on him and stops Duke's march towards another Final Four. Ginyard is that kind of defensive player. Could guard at 3 positions and maybe shut somebody down in the key game.
And Rayshon Terry says goodbye to the fans at the Dean Dome. The senior.
Miller likewise.
And Miller, they both part of that championship team in 2005. Won the title. Roy Williams in St. Louis.
Young man who transferred into North Carolina. You would have never believed he'd have got this much playing time on that transfer date, but he certainly has had a fine career.
Just 40 seconds remaining. Ellington wanted to dunk that one, and Duke comes away with it.
Marcus Nelson showing what he can do athletically.
Wallace fakes, still got spring in the step and drives for the layup. Frazier. And a reach in on Wallace, I believe it is. That'll foul him out. All new tonight, 60 Minutes. Amazing Race, Cold Case Without a Trace here on America's #1 network.
And Jim, when you think of Duke, where they will be seated, where they have to play in the ACC tournament, big expectation for this team. They were picked preseason #2 in the league. Virginia, which finishes tied for first, they were picked preseason #8. North Carolina was a unanimous #1. So for this Duke team, it's got to be tough to be in that kind of position, despite the fact that they've had a year which they stayed in the top 20 just about the whole time.
Wallace fouling out with 21 points. Well, they hit that one crucial step when they'd lost 4 in a row. We were talking to Coach K yesterday. He talked about some of the most pressure he's felt in his distinguished
Boston
career.
College game.
Yeah, winning up there to stop the streak.
Well, we watched them practice yesterday, and we've watched this outstanding coach for so many years. I have never seen him work so hard individually in a practice as he's doing this year. And he's right out there on the floor talking about basic things like defensive stance and bad passes. And it's just he's working like he's a first-year coach on the junior high school level.
Roy Williams is going to get that milestone win of number 100, second fastest in league history, as we mentioned, behind Vic Bubas from back in the 60s at Duke.
And again, going to that possibility of being 1 or 5, Jim, I'm not so sure. This might not have been one of the biggest wins in his career, considering what it means.
Hansbrough with that rebound. Now with a career high in rebounding in one game, 16. Executive producer of CBS Sports, Tony Petitti, and coordinating producer of NCAA basketball was Bob Deacons. Today's game directed by Robert Fishman. At the half, produced by the senior producer of CBS Sports, Eric Mann, and directed by Bob Matina. Coordinating producer of CBS Sports, Harold Bryant. Today's game, associate directors Jonathan Siegel, John Paquette. And you see Mick Roberts also fouls out.
Jimmy, remember, when you think of Roy Williams now, you think he never was any place other than North Carolina. But remember those games. Remember the one in Winston-Salem when he came back to coach with that Kansas team against Duke?
Yeah, second round game.
And, of course, remember the fact that these same two coaches faced each other for the national championship. When Roy was at
91.
Right, in Kansas. And Mike Krzyzewski coming off of that huge upset of UNLV. Beat Kansas for the national championship. Mike's first. So they have faced each other before. Then Roy Williams did get a win in Anaheim against Duke when he was at Kansas in the NCAA tournament. So you got to figure these guys are going to treat all of us with some incredible history as time continues to go on.
Man, Hansbrough
and gets
comes
another
right
rebound.
back in for another rebound. Watch out. He took a shot to the face.
And you know, he is a tough guy. He's hot, but he took a shot there, and the blood is coming out, so he's not going to be shooting these free throws.
Oh, look at this. Roy Williams comes out there to get right between them, and they're gonna escort.
Yeah, he took some shot there.
Now they're taking Hansbrough right to the locker room.
Yep.
Might have been the elbow of Henderson.
It was, and you know what? It was not a nasty. I mean, obviously the contact was strong, but Henderson was not looking for a cheap shot there. Roy and Mike talking it over.
You got the coaches huddling. You got the officials huddling.
Now
you've got Hansbrough, who's already exited the floor.
Hey, here's another thing. And I don't think it was a dirty shot at all by Henderson. It's just one of those deals. You're going after the ball. Here's something you could say. 14.5 seconds to go. North Carolina 12 up. What's Hansbrough on the floor? Yep. But the fans are booing something that was not an intentional foul at all. You can see there, Henderson's coming across the lane, and it was elbow on nose. That usually doesn't work too well for the nose.
Now, you don't want to speculate, but that one.
Wow, you can see right there. See, he was going for the ball. He wasn't. That was not a dirty foul, but Hansbrough, who is such a tough kid, when he goes down to the ground, you know he's hurting.
You know, Hansbrough's come out of the game a couple of times to have some scratches and some other things, even in the second half, addressed.
What the referees are doing here to see who is the foul on. We can see, without question, Henderson is going for the ball, and I think they're just trying to figure out who is the foul on, not whether or not it's an intentional foul or anything. Look, at actually his head is turned when he makes his move. Unfortunate situation there.
They got others out here that are.
And I think, considering the circumstances, the referee's taking much too much time here.
Well, Hansbrough, who would be going to the line, has left.
Well, obviously, anybody that Roy Williams wants to pick can go to that foul line and shoot.
And they've been cleaning up blood as he left a trail exiting the court.
But you know, considering everything, 14.5 seconds, the game is over score-wise. Rather than keep these fans fired up, let the game play. Jim, was Ellington in the game at the time? He's the top free throw. Danny Green's an 87% free throw shooter.
Yeah, Green was on the floor. Ellington was also on the floor. You see the officials, Carl Hess, Sammy Lucky. Actually, it's Jamie Lucky and Les Jones.
Jim, let me tell you something else. If these officials are saying that that was a punch, now let's just think about that.
Affecting games
down the line. It would affect whether or not Henderson would be able to play the next game. I don't think it was a punch at all.
Well, I saw one official, the one in the middle, signaled with like an elbow, as though he thought it was intentional.
No, I don't think it was intentional at all.
Well, now you start to wonder about what the condition's going to be for Hansbrough, too. You know, how serious is that? Is that wound to the nose? Is it a broken nose? Is he going to have to maybe come out and play next week with a mask, you know?
I agree, Jim. But again, you look at the play. It's one thing if a guy goes and makes it a dirty punch, sucker play, but Henderson was aggressively going to try to block the shot. I don't like the call at all.
Well, the call is they have ejected Gerald Henderson.
And
the crowd just learned of it.
Now, what I don't like about that is the implication, what that means for Henderson. I think this is a poor piece of officiating. I didn't see any intent whatsoever in his part. This is a tough situation for Duke. Very unfortunate for both teams. And, you know, the guy's going up for the ball, Jim.
So for Henderson now, he's ejected.
Yeah, you're right there. You can see where he is swiping and his whole body is turning after the ball, not going straight on in to hit. Could be. This could mean a suspension for Henderson, which would really hurt Duke in that respect as well.
Henderson starting to become an offensive presence out there.
Absolutely.
For Duke. I've just confirmed from one of the officials he is going to be suspended for 1 game.
Absolutely. And
he says it was a combative foul is what he told me. And a flagrant foul / combative foul, and will lose a game.
that is a very tough situation for Duke.
Burke, the senior, takes a shot. 10 seconds. Crowd would have loved to have seen that one drop for Dewey Burke. Final seconds winding down. Duke won't even take a shot. It will be the Devils' worst loss of the season. They'll finish 7th as a 7th seed, tied for 6th, but they'll be the 7th seed. Carolina shares the regular season championship with Virginia. They'll be the 1 in their conference tournament. For Billy Packer, Jim Nantz saying so long from Chapel Hill. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports, home of the men's NCAA basketball championship.